Hello there. This is Jen Grace, founder of Publish Your Purpose. And I'm sitting here with Nell. Can I just call you Nell 3D instead of saying that?
Definitely.
Like,
That's
how are
what
you
it's meant
handling that
for.
these days?
There's just too many syllables. And if I'm a subtraction strategist, I figure I have to help people by subtracting some syllables. So I think Nell 3D is really fun.
I don't know when you like switched that over because I feel like it's been a little while now, but I was like, oh my God, that's so brilliant that you did it that way. And then you have it like your full name in the brackets because there's a lot of names there. So I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Um, okay.
I'm
So
just
I have
living out a childhood fantasy when I really wanted to be Madonna. I thought like this, I mean, Madonna, obviously, child of the
yeah,
80s. But that one name was like really compelling.
yeah.
And so when I realized like leading in 3D, I actually am named 3D. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of too good. Like, why have I not been leaning into that?
I know. And it's also like such good branding, right? Like if we think about, like we have a lot of things that we want to talk about today, but like branding, I think is something that thought leaders are thinking about all the time, whether you identify or call yourself a thought leader, but someone who's, out there in the world trying to lead with their purpose. We have to think about how our brand shows up. So I love
Yeah.
that you have it a nice little container now, which is beautiful.
Thanks.
All right. So just to start off, just kind of share a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we can kind of get into all the fun stuff.
Yeah, totally. So I am indeed a subtraction strategist, which is a relatively newly coined expertise focus area that came out of 30 years of purpose. And we can talk about that moment as a 12-year-old when I really saw what my purpose was. And then 2 decades of work in impact leadership development. So, nonprofit, for profit, government, kind of across the sectors, but all about using quote unquote business skills, i.e., like strategy and finance and just the things that make any organization work to create impact, again, in all the sectors. And then a really intense sort of holy trinity, I'm calling them, of awakenings, of incidents that revealed this need to subtract. And so just, kind of the highlight reel is a head-on collision that I caused and everyone happily walked away from, but that was not an inevitable outcome. And then losing my father-in-law at his bedside. I was there. My husband and I were there, literally in his deathbed at home in a really beautiful and intimate way. And then 24 hours after that, being rushed into the OR for emergency surgery. So these three things over 6 months that there had been highs and lows before and burnout and learning and this that had created my lead in 3D philosophy, which is the Nell 3D. And again, we can get to that. But then it was this like trio of crucibles from August 24 to January 25 that I feel like really got me in this lane that is, I don't know, the next decade, the rest of my life, certainly the next few years.
Yeah. And what's interesting because we've known each other for a while now. We're both involved in a local nonprofit together.
Yeah.
And I feel like I knew of those things all kind of independently. I guess I didn't realize how close everything was together and like what a catalyst it was in that transformation. So it's always interesting when we're going through like some of the worst parts of our life, how, and I want to say curated because I don't mean it as a negative, but like how at the same time we can still show up so polished as if nothing is
Mm,
actually happening, even when we're being honest with people around us, like how something can be like so life altering internally and yet
yeah.
externally people aren't really like seeing the magnitude of it.
Totally. Totally. It's been fascinating, the dots connect in reverse, obviously. And this was a pretty quick metabolizing of it all. Like
Mhm.
it really, the accident obviously was a literal impact.
Mhm.
And I kind of thought I was back from that, I would say, awake for
Mhm.
sure, right? I was so aligned. I was on fire. I'd just gotten back from a week-long retreat in Italy, of all places, my happiest place, right? So I was high and aligned and energized. And then I literally crashed into this 20-ton landscaping truck head on. And it was like, oh, alignment's not enough,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing too much, that's still dangerous, like literally dangerous. And so
Yeah.
that kicked it off. But then these other two kind of internal and spirit realm pieces really pulled it together into what I've come to see as this idea of prosilience that really matters to
Mm,
me, right? So I think after the accident, I kind of did the resilience thing, right? And I like
mhm.
got back in the car, comfortable with driving, and stopped with my phone because that's what caused it. I looked down. It was not my worst offense, but it was enough. And so I did kind of the resilience and I got back.
Yeah.
And then these other 2 things in January, like, why back? Like, what
Yeah.
is there forward here that we can grow
Mm,
into? So anyway, yeah.
mm. Like the idea of prosilience. I feel like resilience and resiliency are just words that are so overused. And I feel like they've lost meaning in a lot of ways, even though there's something so deep and beautiful about resiliency. Is anyone else using prosilience? Is this like a Nell coined word? Because I feel like it's a great word to roll with it.
Thank you. It's not quite. There's actually I think there's a book somewhere, or at least there's like an institute that talks about resilience that never really took off. It was a while ago, so maybe just not its time. We all know it's not great to be the first mover in a lot of these ideas.
Yeah.
Um, what I'm seeing now is a lot of conversation about how, first of all, resilience is overused, as you say. And so, like synergy, it's a beautiful word, but McKinsey kind of
Mhm.
gutted it of any actual meaning because it's like a code for layoffs or something. And I think now what we're seeing with resilience is that it's code for the system is broken. So you
Mhm.
need to be stronger as an individual to deal with it.
Yeah.
And that's really toxic, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's really a problem. I wrote a post about, that we have, like, bounced aggressively, not only to pre-COVID, but, like, to the '50s industrial era, right? I
Mhm.
was so hopeful about COVID, obviously, horrors apart, but, like, hallelujah, we've had this collective awakening, right? This
Yeah.
collective crucible moment, and indeed, a lot was shifting. It wasn't perfect, but, oh gosh, all of a sudden we can work from home. Turns out caretakers can caretake and still work and be okay. Um, and the resilience of extractive capitalism to bang right back
Yeah.
full speed ahead, again, worse than 2019, I would suggest, is really a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah, and it leads to, like, the bigger conversation is, like, how are we thriving in workplaces? Because it's the thing that I feel like the majority of us have in common is that there's some kind of workplace setting, whether you're working for home or you're working for a Fortune 5, like, it doesn't really make a difference. But, like, how can we, with that backdrop, really be thriving in these environments today? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. I think, and at the risk of skipping a little bit ahead to the end, and we can build back for people, but this is where I think the systems thinking is so critical and so lacking. And so, this idea of subtract to succeed that I'm writing about and talking about and speaking about, the method for it is stop, drop, and roll. And the
Mhm.
roll, again, skipping a little bit to three, we'll build back steps one and two shortly, but that's what comes from systems thinking. And so the idea is a very intuitive, natural one, right? This isn't some kind of newfangled approach. It's we are systems as humans, right? We're systems of organs and
Mm,
all the things. We live in systems of families and companies and communities. Trees are a system that we're embedded in systems. So we are born knowing that. And then we get taught and rewarded to operate as though we are a linear production line
mm,
rather than an interactive, complex system. Maybe a very complicated linear thing, but a linear thing nonetheless, where X touches Y, then Z, then A. And that's false. That isn't real, especially now that we're not working on production lines anywhere where it
yeah.
might be somewhat true, but like actually look at the supply chain, that's a system. And so we need to remember systems thinking, not recreate, not learn, not a new book to read, not a new habit to stack. Just remember that we are systems connected in systems and value the interconnections. Right. So, again, I know you have a nerdy audience, so I'll dive in here a little bit. That a system is made up of three components. There are the stocks, like the individual pieces. So, think of those as like the things on your to do list every day, personal, professional, everything you do from day to night. And then there's the function, which is the purpose, right?
Mhm.
Maybe that's your life purpose. Maybe that's the KPI for the quarter, right? Whatever that function of that system is to stay healthy as a human, to raise good kids, whatever. But the third piece that we chronically under recognize and undervalue is the interconnections
Mm,
between these things. So if you think of like a production thing or a process document, right? You have the triangle and then there's an arrow to the next thing. It's that arrow that
Yeah.
says like what's going to happen. And we don't give enough attention to that. So to boil all this nerdiness down into a very simple example, think about when you wake up in the morning, right? You open your eyes, you can either A, doom scroll, see the calendar alert, see all the red buttons, which no judgment. That's a choice that many of us do because that's what you do in the morning when you get your phone and you're also getting some motivation and a healthy quote, whatever. Or you can look out the window at the sky for 10 seconds or breathe deeply for 60 seconds or tell yourself a joke or jot down a dream, right? One of these kind of internal reflective practices. And then you go to breakfast. Instead of thinking of like, I can do this and I have to do the thing, so maybe I do the email or whatever, and then I go to breakfast, what's the connection there?
Yeah.
How do you show up at breakfast in scenario A versus scenario B?
Very differently, I would
Very
imagine.
differently.
Yeah.
And how would you prefer to show up at breakfast?
Yeah, I would imagine present, whole, rested maybe.
Oxygenated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and so I think that it's sense making, right? We're sense making
Yeah.
humans, and so I think that that piece is just I have felt for me a really important unlock. I see it with clients of this method is it's not just another to do. We enough to dos. Like we cannot. So
Yeah.
those dot connecting is really magic. I think that's really critical.
Yeah, I love that because it's like the tiny little piece between the things, but that tiny little piece is what we make sense of for the thing that came before it and the thing that comes after it. So it is all about the sense making. Oh, that's really interesting.
And it's self-reinforcing.
Mhm.
And so all of a sudden, we don't have to find willpower, right? Another like example is like if you do the 5 minutes of checking in or icebreaker or whatever at the beginning of a meeting, the conversation that comes after is different.
Mhm.
And so in the next meeting, you don't have to get over your eye roll or your embarrassment or your shyness about doing that 5 minutes because it created a better meeting.
Yeah. Yeah, a
And so
more
all of a sudden, when you're connecting those dots, you're like, "That had a better result, so I would love to do that again."
yeah.
You know?
So what's the I guess I don't wanna say advice because I don't wanna be, like, talking heads, but, like, what's the like, if someone's like, "Oh, that's really interesting to think about how I can just think about that gap between the things." What's the thing that someone could do right after stopping watching us? Like, what could they do that might help them start to make sense of that?
Yeah. So that's there's a 3 step, so that's a good time to come back to step 1, which is where we should begin, where people I invite people to begin. And so this idea of stop is not go on a week-long retreat in Italy because that was 36 hours before I had my car accident, right? So, like, go on the retreat by all means. I continue to go on retreats, they're great. But it's a very, like, robust, present version of stopping.
Mhm.
So eyes wide open, collecting data. And this doesn't have to be a 6-month data collection exercise but something. How does my body feel? How
Mhm.
is my business going? How are colleagues reacting to me? How do I feel in my marriage? What's happening? Any and all of this, right?
Mhm.
This is not prescriptive. As you said, we're not talking heads with, I don't have a 5-step process. I have a 3-step cycle and approach that you need to make your own because we all have
Yeah.
different versions. Maybe it's a run, maybe you're cooking, maybe you are meditating. I don't know. But stop.
Mhm.
Quiet the red blinking urgencies. Block the blue light. Like go inside because these are smart people in our PYP community here. You have studied, you have learned, you have mentors, you have Jen, if nothing else. You have resources up the wazoo to help you actually figure out what to do. That's not where we are anymore. But if we don't stop and honestly look and listen at what's happening, which on one hand is not easy, it is a difficult friggin' time.
Yeah.
And so there is global shit going on. There is microeconomic pressure and realities going on. Like, it's
Mhm.
not easy. And what I find and what clients and other users of this systematic subtraction find is that there also continues to be magic and good in
Mhm.
the world and progress and hope.
Yeah.
And those things don't have infrastructure. No one is red blinking hope at you.
If only. Can you imagine? That would be like the silver bullet, right? Like, oh, I got my hope pill today. Yeah.
So we have to stop and get quiet to let all of that come in, right? And just get a literal just a reality check. Like, where am I actually? I am not actually being shipped off to war in Ukraine. And so it's not that I don't hurt at that. I'm not sticking my head in the sand. And that's in my circle of concern. I'm worried about that still. It's not in my circle of influence. I don't have, there's nothing that I can directly do today to change that. Right. And again, this isn't fatalistic or passing the buck. Like, if at some point there's a relief effort, I know you've been involved in some of that. Can I donate? Sure. Great. But I don't have to figure that out. I don't have connections there. So that's a waste of my time and effort. Right. So
Yeah.
the stop is really important, and that circle of concern influence is something that I talk and write about a lot right now because it's a helpful filter.
Yeah.
So
And
that's the first step.
what you're saying and what's reminding me of something that I'm trying to just actively work on for myself. Like
Mm,
I've written a memoir. Anyone who's read it, I've been through some things. So that aside, one of the things that I realized not that long ago that I'm like, I really need to control my nervous system. Like my nervous
mhm,
system still hijacks me. Been in therapy for longer than I can count. Um, Actively very self-aware, constantly doing things, but yet our body hijacks us. And
mhm,
unless we're actively like speaking to our nervous system and trying to find ways to just be like, I'm actually safe right now. Like you were, you said something before that made me think of this, but it's like, it's not like a tiger that's coming to like, I'm not getting chased by a lion right now. I literally had an email that I'm like annoyed by. Like that is not, those are not the same. But like sometimes we actually have to like take that moment to just stop and be like, okay, like what's the worst case scenario? And really, does it matter? Like, is this gonna matter to me? I don't know whose framework this is. Will it matter to me in 5 minutes,
mm.
5 hours, 5 years, or whatever the wording is? But it's
Or
like,
at my funeral, right, is the ultimate one. And I know one thinker at least who like just started skipping right to that. She was like, that's always what I ask is like, will this matter at my
and the
funeral?
answer is gonna be no 99% of the time.
0.99. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah.
so interesting. Okay, so we
So
talked about the stop. Yeah.
so that stop is exactly right, right? It's that pause of
Mhm.
neurosystem recontrol, again, however you want and need to frame it, that's exactly ultimately what that is serving. And so somewhat tactically there, again, I don't have it for you. There are some known quantities. Breathe, really great idea. Closing your eyes, literally going inside can help. Movement, right? But again, these are different for the case and for the person. So find what you have, what you can do, a word, a phrase, an image, a practice, whatever. Find that to help you stop quickly
Mhm.
because we're not going to stop. We're not going to, we can control our nervous system, but we don't want to remove it, right? No, I'm not signing up for a lobotomy. And so that is going to keep happening. That's what it is
Yeah.
there to do, but we have to hold it back more quickly. And then drop. And so this is the juice of subtraction.
Mhm.
Let it go.
Getting juicy.
Let it go as an experiment
Mm.
is how I'm really careful about describing this, right? This is not a permanent embargo. If you wanna pick the thing back up, you go ahead and pick that thing back up.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
one is watching, no one is controlling you from, no one's gonna be like, "No, you can't come back to this read-only meeting notes that,"
Yeah.
like, have at it.
Yeah.
So frame it as an experiment. What if
Wow.
I stopped going to this recurring meeting where I don't have decision-making control?
Mhm.
And so I'm just listening, but actually there are pretty solid AI notes and my junior is really good and that's what I hired him to do. Probably he can and should own that for us,
Mhm.
And I really encourage everyone to push hard on that. We have so many assumptions and shoulds and preconceptions about what we have to do.
Mhm.
And I recognize that we all have bosses. It might be a 6-year-old, it might be the CEO, it might be a client, like, we all have bosses.
Yeah.
And again, the system is not working. So it's a moment to push on
Mhm.
some of those assumptions about what we've always done, what we have to do. And the other category of drop is the thinking
Mm.
about the thing.
Mhm.
Because
He
even if
said
that's a real must, if that's a real deliverable, that is a real deadline, you have to do that thing and it feels useless or it feels like too much. There's a lot of that happening right now. I get it. Work is
Mm,
intense. So
yeah.
I'm not saying that you can just overwork yourself and ta-da, you're fixed, right? There is going to be probably some of that still. But always what we know we can control, what Viktor Frankl modeled from the concentration camps of all places,
Mm,
is that with the right why, with the right framing or sense making, storytelling about what's happening, we can survive almost any conditions.
mhm. Yeah.
And so, call it lying to yourself, telling yourself a story, living in a fantasy world. Yeah, that's what we're doing as humans all day, every day. So why not choose a story that's more constructive? Again, not to excuse the extractive, capitalist,
Sure.
racist, misogynist system. Like, I'm all on board for changing that, but we
Yeah.
can't change it if we're dead or burnt out. And
Mm,
so we've got to find ways to cope and stay present.
mm.
And I think sense making and the storytelling and dropping unhelpful thought
Yeah.
is really productive.
Yeah, it reminds me of The Power of Now. I can't
Mm,
remember, the author's
Eckhart
name.
Tolle.
Yes, like, it's such a simple concept, but the reality of trying to implement that is a lifelong journey for people. So it's very I
Totally.
feel like there's a similarity of what you're saying because there's such a simplicity to what you're talking about, and yet we as humans overcomplicate everything to every degree. And if we
Yeah.
think about things, like I think of like the law of attraction and
Mm,
manifestation and things like that, like just looking like two people could be having the same experience and one turns it to positive and one turns it to negative, like you're only going to attract more negative, you're only going to attract more positive. And so it's all of these things that seem so simple, they don't cost money, you don't have to hire a coach to do them. You don't have to hire a facilitator or anybody to do it. You could just kind of sit and do it yourself. And yet, our capitalist society will spend millions and millions of dollars to have people come in and like wave the magic wand to say, here's the framework. Go do it now. Have fun. So it's so interesting to kind of see like
mm,
such ease and how this is something that's accessible to everybody,
yeah.
and yet not everybody really has access to it. So it's just, I don't know,
Mhm.
fascinating to kind of think about that dichotomy.
And that's what I'm really loving. I mean, this emerged from my own practice and seeing it, and now explicitly doing the stop, drop, roll, which is absolutely a lifelong practice. Like,
Mhm.
I have a mini course on it now, and I'm starting a 100-day practice on it in a few weeks, but it won't be like, oh, congratulations, here's your certificate. You're a systematic subtractor and nothing will ever go wrong again.
Yeah,
Like, sorry, spoiler.
amazing.
But it's we do all have access to it, right? But it takes all 3 bits. We have to do the stop. And again, it might just be 2 seconds and then a drop, one thought released.
Mm,
And then a roll, that's where the stickiness comes,
mhm,
is by making sense of it and seeing like, you know what? I did feel better after not going to my phone this morning. So
mhm,
it doesn't mean I'm not going to do that tomorrow, because tomorrow I have this meeting and I want to check if the person's there. Like,
mhm,
same, but maybe the day after I don't have a meeting that I'm waiting to check
mhm,
on and I can remember how nice breakfast was
mhm.
and release the phone. Right.
Yeah,
And that's the shift. It's
mhm.
not Jen 2026. I'm not going to pick up my phone out of bed. Like,
Yeah,
join the
those
others who will fail on January 17th or January 7th or
that's why
whatever.
resolutions are so hard, right? We, like, come into January with this new year, new me, new year, new you, and it's all of this, like, hype, and it's almost like it's designed to fail because it's just there's nothing sustainable about any of it. I talk about marketing nonstop, and the big thing I'm
Mhm.
always talking about like sustainably approaching it with
Yeah.
whatever resources you do or do not have. Like just do something that is sustainable because otherwise, like I could
Yeah.
tell you to, start training for a marathon and have to run one in 5 weeks, and you'd be like, I cannot do that in 5 weeks,
Correct.
or like get a book written in five. Like it just it's too much pressure to say like I'm
Mhm.
like, but it's also like we want to have those the BHAG goals, right? We want to have
Yeah.
those big scary goals too. So it's finding that balance between, and are you a person that thrives with big goals, or are you somebody that the second there's a big goal like that, you're going to do everything and self-sabotage your whole way to not doing it. So like it's kind of like really that self-awareness of like who we are and knowing what will or won't work for us. But it's kind of like
Yeah.
observing, like you said, like it's an experiment. You got to observe to see what will work for me versus you, like that's going to be different, or maybe there's commonalities, like we don't know. But unless we're like paying attention to that and clued into that, there's no other way to be like on our radar, because it's just
Yeah.
like one more thing that we're like cognitively like, oh, one more thing to think about, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Totally, which is where, again, I just think this lens, we're trained, right? We're high performers, we're high achievers, we're impact driven, and there is a lot of impact to be had in the world right now. So we're like, and so we've been rewarded for
Yeah.
doing more, right? I'm doing a new book, I'm adding a platform, I'm posting more regularly, I'm getting more followers, it's all about that growth. And the problem is that there's an economic law of diminishing returns, which means that tops out. So by definition, when you continue to do more in one direction, the curve of returns on those efforts flattens. And that's very frustrating. And our natural high performer response is to do, I must not be doing enough. I have to level up. What got me here won't get me there. I have to do more and try harder. And that ceiling is
Mhm.
firm.
Mhm.
And so in that adapting and learning, there's gotta be a subtraction moment, right? I see this with clients around strategic planning. Like,
Mhm.
things are changing a lot these days if you haven't gotten the memo. And so whether it's a quarterly process or an annual process, what's the new strategy? What's the new focus? How are we doing this? Okay, fine, but did you make room for it?
Yeah.
Did you explicitly put to bed the stuff either that isn't working anymore or that's working okay, but can't sustainably coexist with what needs to happen next?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, the stop is that data collection to look, what am I already doing? What's not working? What's there room for? And then drop something to then,
Yeah.
first of all, not even add anything, just connect the dots between what you're doing. And then maybe you add something back in, right?
Mhm.
This is not about minimalism or the 4-hour work week or,
Sure.
give less Fs or let them or what, those are all charming. But like
Mhm.
people I work with need a more nuanced version of this. It turns
Yeah.
out there is a lot of work to do. And the world is changing and there's opportunity and there's challenge. So we have to add things. I'm not saying it's all one directional,
Yeah.
but the subtraction step has to be in the evolution.
Yeah, and I like that you frame it as an experiment because it
Mhm.
makes it more attainable. Like, I think about if I go back to not quite early January. I should actually go to social media and see when I declared that I was no longer being on Meta platforms last year.
Mhm.
And it was sometime maybe end of January, beginning of February. And I was like, "Ooh, this is gonna be hard. Like, I don't know if I can do it." And in all transparency, do I not know what's going on with almost everybody? I know the answer is yes. Unless like I'm engaged, like I have to intentionally seek people out to know what's going on because I don't have
Yeah,
the pictures or people's vacations or whatever's happening. But it also makes me more intentional because I reach out and I like there's the relationships that I want to have, that I want to be really intentional about,
yeah,
versus just being inundated by people's negativity and toxicity. And even when it's somebody that you love and they're complaining about something on social media, it's like, this doesn't serve me. And so I thought it was going to be really hard. And I did it kind of as like an experiment where I just kind of like posted, I'm like, I am not participating in these platforms. And I took PYP off of both of them. And it's not as hard as you think it is, at least for me. And I
yeah,
know it'd be way harder for other people. But I'm like, I'm almost a year in of not being on these platforms. And I feel like a different person in a lot of ways because I'm not taking on the weight of the negativity of things that I can't control, like you were saying before. Like, I can't control your reaction to something happening politically. It's not my place, for one.
mhm,
Nor do I need that crowding up my mind. Because so for me, that was the subtraction. And it's like,
yeah,
what other subtractions can I work on through this other year that are the little
mhm,
subtractions, because that was kind of a big one. But there's probably other ones
totally,
here and there. It could just be like, I don't want to have calls after 4 p.m. That's a subtraction, right? Let's try it. Let's see what happens.
definitely,
If it's a bad idea, then we'll go back to what we were doing.
yep. No, that's exactly the right frame, and that's, I would reframe that a little bit of like, it wasn't that hard, I heard you say a few times, but I think what I'm hearing is, it's awesome.
Yeah. It was the best thing
Like
I did last year.
You know? So again, I think we have this like inherent shame that's like really deep because of course there's also like the coolness of like I'm off socials or it
Sure.
goes both ways. We have all kind of framings of it.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally this more is deeply wired into us from school of gold stars and
Mhm.
capitalism and money and titles and followers. But actually, you subtracted that and you're like, so there's this like, "Oh, it wasn't that hard." I'm like, no, it was amazing. It was the best thing you did last year." Like, let's own the fact that doing less can actually be totally joyful and upside, not just like a compromise that was kind of okay.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. It's a really good because anytime people ask me, I'm like, "It was, like, the best damn thing I" like, 'cause it's so freeing, and it also gives you more time to do other things. Whether, like, I spend like, we're talking about Substack, and this is going, to the Substack subscribers, like, I genuinely like being because I like just reading what other people are saying and talking about, like, around the topics that are interesting to me. So I'm like,
Right.
I'm reading more, just reading more books, spending more time on Duolingo that I feel like the bird's less angry with me now. So like, it's just things like that that I feel like are helping me a little bit more
Yeah.
versus like things that like you say, I don't want to try to control the things that I can't control or like
Yeah.
allow that input in because it doesn't work for me.
So that's my other end of year post was about streaks, subtracting
Mhm.
streaks.
Oh.
Because it occurred to me that I was getting into bed and I try to not use my phone in bed so that it's not there in the morning, so that.
Mhm.
And I'm not perfect at it by any stretch. And I
Yeah,
sleep way
try.
more and better on the nights that I don't. And yet I pull it in. Anyway, so I'm walking down to bed with my phone. I'm like, oh, I haven't done Wordle and the
Mhm,
games and spelling
mhm,
bee, which I love, genuine
mhm.
delight for me. Fine. But then I was like, wait a minute. I love it as a little break in my day. I don't love it as an extension of my cognitive awakeness and blue light and phone at night in bed. So,
Mm,
who is that streak for?
yeah.
It's for the time so that I'm less likely to cancel my subscription, not for me, because it serves a real purpose for me, which is a fun distraction during the day,
Sure.
not a pre-bedtime must.
Mm.
Right, and so again, it's this point that, like, there are not flashing red lights of hope coming at
Yeah,
us.
no.
The flashing red lights are for them. It's
Mhm.
for their revenue, it's for their commercialism, it's for their, buying of your time and effort as an employer, but it's very well engineered and funded and strategized.
Mhm.
And
Mm,
so this subtraction of that, exactly what you were just describing, of that influence over your attention is
mhm,
a really important one. And it's
mm.
again, it's easy to kind of trivialize or trend off this platform, on this platform, no
Sure.
sub, from to 8 to 8, whatever,
Mhm.
which are all fine versions of it.
Sure.
But I just invite people to like dig a layer deeper because it's actually really insidious.
Yeah, I like that. Because what the 2 words that popped in my head are, like, joy and obligation. Like, you're
Mm.
talking about those games, like because it's like Marie Kondo, right? Like, does this bring me joy? Like, I say that to myself nonstop, like, "Is this bringing me joy?" And most of the time, the answer is no, and I'm like, "Why am I participating in this?" But, like, the idea of, like, streaks and, like, I think when you're on a streak, like, I think it's like a 1,250-day Duolingo streak, like, that's been, years in the making, and it's like the idea of, like, losing that streak, I'm like, "Does anybody know that?" No, you're the first person I probably ever said that to. So, like, no one cares. I'm not friends with people I know on it. Like,
Right.
it's nothing about competition, but it keeps me accountable to, like, doing the thing, but it's an
Yeah.
obligation. It's not bringing me joy. Does it help me around in family settings? Sure, but it's not bringing me joy.
Yeah. But, look, I'm a big type 2 fun person. Like, I value sweat and hard work. I'm not quite a no pain, no gain, but, like, we
Mhm.
know we do hard things for purpose, right? And most purpose does not come easily all the time.
Yeah.
Hopefully, there's joy, but it might be deferred joy. So, again, that's where, like, the subtraction is not blanket, like, just cut it out, just say no to everything. But it's examining that. So, like, maybe you give yourself permission to lose the 1,250 streak for a day or 2 and see how that feels knowing that you can build it back. You did it once, and maybe you won't get to 2,000 quite as quickly, and just see how that
Yeah.
feels. And if it turns out that 4 days a week is the right amount for you on Duolingo, that won't be their streak,
Yeah.
but maybe that'll be more choice, or maybe you'll really miss it, and it's an obligation that uses your brain in a different way
Mhm.
and makes you feel globally connected and more fluent with family.
Mhm.
Great. Like, just because it's an app you're paying that has that feature built in doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah.
I just want us to reclaim
Mhm.
the choosiness around that.
Yeah, yeah, and get out of that kind of, like, mode of, like, "We have to do this thing." Because
Right.
and especially I think for people who are self-employed or entrepreneurs or even people who might even, like, work from home that have, like, loose structures from, like, a management standpoint, the amount of, like, pressures that I know for me personally, like, I am the boss. And yet the amount of, like, pressure I put on myself for how things have to look and how I'm like, "What am I do" some days
Certainly the most
what am I
intense form
doing?
of
Like,
pressure.
why? Why am I doing this? Like, does anyone care what time I'm at my desk? In the morning or at night, no one cares. No one's asking. I'm not accountable to anybody. But yet it's like stuff that I'm like, well, I need to be here and doing this. And it's like, why? And I've been an entrepreneur for 20 years, so it's not like this is new, you know?
Right, right. I had this great tidbit. I was talking to my mom, who has been sick for like 3 weeks, bless her. She's a monstrously healthy 73-year-old and active and teaches yoga and runs her town voting as the town clerk and whatever. She's a
Awesome.
badass. And she's been sick for like 3 weeks. And so low energy. She actually had kind of a spell in her like, CrossFit workout that she still does. Anyways, and so I called her Sunday and I'm like, what are you doing? She said, I'm canceling my week. Because I'm just, I was talking to a friend and they were like, what level of functioning are you at 3 weeks later after flu and sinus
Yeah.
infection? She's like, oh, like 65%. And they're like, and you're going to do your massage clients and your yoga classes with compromised elder adults? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? And she's like, I thought, Nellie wouldn't quit, she would do the week, whatever. And I was like, Mom, I definitely would. Like, you're out of touch with who I am. Like, I would just bag the whole week, right? I wouldn't do Monday to Wednesday, do Monday to Friday, see you next Monday, and not feel bad about it at all. But it
100%.
was such a funny glimpse of like these
Yeah.
avatars we have in our head of who we should be or who our, you know, admirable other people in our life are and what they would do. Like
Mhm.
garbage.
Yeah, it's all garbage because like you see so many people who are like, oh, people are so self-absorbed in what's happening in their own life that they're not even paying attention to yours. And that's so true, right? So it's like, could we all just like give ourselves a little more of a pass to like not be perfect? Like it's possible.
And this came up with a conversation yesterday with somebody about she is the NPR News Hour in Baltimore, and she's a news person because she cares, but you can tell that's not a full-time job. Thanks NPR federal funding. She is a mom. Yikes. She is the head of a nonprofit in Baltimore and a community leader of Mocha Moms, and so that's a whole thing. And she was like, it's a little scary though right now. Like 30% of Black women in my region have lost their jobs in the last year, not for lack of effort or skill or drive. And so I was like, Deanna, so honestly, stop overworking because apparently it's not working either.
Oh,
So
thank
like if that is horrible and I'm not denying those statistics are real and it's a scary moment and it's not fair. It's racist, it's misogynist, it's extractive.
Mhm.
It's not okay. And why would we keep doing the things we think we should do for that system if we're getting laid off more anyway?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why are you
You
putting in
know?
more? It's not helping.
It like,
Mm.
if it's broke, fix it, and again, I don't say that blithely. I understand people have bills to pay and kids to raise, and like, I get it. It's a bit scary. And if this isn't working, it's not less scary. It feels safe because we're
Yeah.
holding on to what has always worked, but
Yeah.
that's a total illusion.
And it doesn't matter if it worked, like it could be working differently now than it did before. So that's the
It
big illusion, right? Mm,
I mean, I basically guarantee you it is. I think basically all of the things we did before are working differently now, or
mhm.
they will be in 3 years' time or 3 months.
Yeah, even if we
Sorry.
just look at pre and post COVID, like that
Correct.
it's the everything shifted, like everything shifted, and like you were saying before, like, we thought that we had, like, this collective awakening, and we're all gonna, like and did not take that long before we were right back where we started, and it's like we don't learn our lesson. So at least maybe from an individual standpoint, we can all work on learning our lessons.
Yeah. Which I'll really just close with a shout out for systems thinking and nerd out on that if you want. You know, the writing
Yeah.
about it. Donna Meadows is one of the great grandmothers and thinkers in it, and her writing is really beautiful. Or don't, because it really is as simple as stop, drop, and roll. Really think about that idea of connecting the dots,
Mm.
because it's truly transformational without doing more. It's just taking a moment to harness our mind and think through the interconnections between things, and it's transformation, but spending more effort, and it builds a flywheel, it builds upward momentum and keeps you doing the things you know you want to be doing but can be hard to change.
Yeah. Oh, no, this has been such a good conversation, which I knew it was gonna be because I feel like we get to have, like, private conversations where we're, like, all over the place and trying to solve the world's problems. So I knew if we had a little structure around this, we could have a really deep conversation.
Yeah.
And I said to you before, like, I really love your Substack, Subtract to
Mhm.
Succeed. I'm, like, very much enjoying it because it's just so practical, so relatable, and, like, I know that you have, like, your audio version, and it's, like, it's very comprehensive. So for those of you who are watching this on Substack, please definitely go subscribe to Nell. But any other ways that you wanna kinda share with people how to find you, engage with you, all of those things?
Yeah, nell3d.com is pretty much pulls everything together. So the Substack is linked from there. Definitely come hang out with me there. That's where I'm most excited to be spending time. And it's the personal examples of subtraction in my real time clients, and then tips and tools, including AI prompts, which people are having so much fun with. Like if you're really just tapped, great, copy and paste this and type in 10 words about your
Yeah.
situation. It's amazing what's coming out. And so that's been really fun. Those newly are paywalled. So if that's a barrier for anyone, please just send me a note and I'm happy to share a free trial or free year. But I think it creates a bit of accountability. It supports me
Mhm.
as a freelancer, and it puts some skin in the game. So $80 a year, no big deal for many of us, thankfully. And then there's a monthly newsletter that's a little more inside baseball. I announced on there
Mhm.
tomorrow. I'm announcing tomorrow that I have a book agent that I'm working with this year. So that's going to be a fun adventure, and
Yeah.
all that journey will be on that private path. And then, yeah, we were, LinkedIn pros, cons. I'm there. I'm easy to find thanks to my 25 syllable last name. So feel free to hang out there too. But Substack really is what I'm having the most fun with. So I look forward to conversations there.
That's amazing. Same with me. I'm loving hanging out there, love seeing you there. It is a nice, harmonious place. And maybe sometime later this year, or maybe sometime next year, when there's progress with the book and all what that new iteration looks like, we can have a follow-up conversation. We can share all about it. That would be fun.
Yeah, let's
Mm,
do it.
amazing. Thank you so much, Nell. I really appreciate you. I'm so happy that you're in
Thank
my life, like
you.
genuinely.
Likewise. Likewise.
All right. Happy New
Here's to
Year.
a happy new year.
Yes. Bye.